Blog Talk Radio.
Behold, how good and how pleasant it is for brethren to dwell together in unity. This is Choppin It Up, brought to you by the Marching Podcast and Blog Talk Radio. I'm your host, Joe Beard, and happy to be of service for you today. Today is, I know it's September, but today is September 16th, 3 o'clock on the West Coast, 6 o'clock on the East Coast. And today we chop it up with Taylor Whitehead. Taylor Whitehead is the head band director for the Warren County High School and Warrenton, North Carolina. It is Warren County, but it's Warrenton, North Carolina. I found Taylor on the fifth quarter. He posted something about DCI at the movies, and I was interested, so I sent him a message. He responded, and we talked, and found out that, he's a high school band director, and the rest is history. So please call in and talk to Taylor today at 718-664-6025. You can email the show at marchingpodcast@gmail.com, or you can tweet us at marchingpodcast. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Taylor Whitehead. What's going on today, Taylor?
Doing pretty good. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing pretty good. I really appreciate you being on the show today. I know I was trying to pin you down for this interview, and you're really busy this month with the season going on and all.
Yes,
so we just really appreciate you filling in for us. So let's get into it. Taylor, where are you from?
I'm originally from a small town called Warrenton, Virginia. It's about an hour south of Richmond, Virginia, which is the capital of Virginia.
Okay. Now, is your folks from there? Or is your family from there?
Yes, my whole family's from there, but I've actually been living in Petersburg. I went to Virginia State University in 1991, and I've been in Petersburg, Virginia, ever since then.
Okay, yeah, that rolls right into my next question. You went to Virginia State. Now, did you march at your high school? Like, what was your musical experience? In high school, I was a sousaphone player my 9th and 10th grade year, and then my 11th and 12th grade year, I was drum major. Wow, okay. Okay, so, like, you already had, like, the marching band in you. Now, you said you went to Virginia State. What made you pick Virginia State?
It's actually kind of funny. For some reason, when I was graduating from high school, I actually really wanted to go to Howard University. I wanted to go to Howard because I really was into what was happening with the academic scene there and things of that nature. But both of my parents went to Virginia State. They kind of like twisted my arms. And when I was a senior in high school, my college band director, who was Harold Halton, who was former band director at Jackson State University, he came to Virginia State in 1984. He actually recruited me in high school, and he kind of convinced me that I would enjoy going to Virginia State just as much as I would Howard. And so I went to Virginia State with the mindset that I would be at Virginia State for 2 years and then transfer to Howard. But once I got to Virginia State, I enjoyed the experience and ended up staying and graduating and enjoyed the whole process. That's
actually... You dropped the bomb on the listeners. It's really good that you did. You talked about Harold Horton. There's a lot of history behind that name and with Jackson State. I need to check my historical facts, but I believe he was the one that came up with the name, or I think he was there when the actual Sonic Boom of the South was, when the actual band there was being called that. I know that my dad was there back in the 60s, and they were not the Sonic Boom of the South. They were the best band in the land. But I know somewhere along there, I know he was involved in that. 718-664-6025. You're chopping it up with Taylor Whitehead and the Marching Podcast and Blog Talk Radio. Thanks for listening. So were you a part of any other ensembles when you were there at Virginia State?
Yes, I actually played. In addition to being in the marching band, known as the Virginia State Trojan Explosion, I also was in the symphonic band, as well as I played in low brass ensemble. So I actually played in a few different groups, and in the pep band as well. But the majority of, I guess, being a student under Mr. Horton, Harold Horton is a legendary, known as basically being an extravagant drill writer. And so much of my time was actually studying under him and learning a lot of his drill concepts and techniques. So that's what so much of what was going on during the time that I was at Virginia State.
That's really cool, man. That's really cool that you actually, you're a disciple. Being where you are in the field, learning under him. That's really cool. So now at Virginia State, did you guys have like another rivalry, or was there a big battle that you guys had when you were there?
Even though for the most part they were always a bigger band, Virginia State's rival has always pretty much been Norfolk State. It's the whole Spartan versus Trojan mindset, as well as Norfolk State is actually was a extension of Virginia State University. A lot of people don't know that Norfolk really, before it became Norfolk State University, it was Virginia State University. It was like a satellite campus of Virginia State. So they eventually went on to become rivals, and so Norfolk was always definitely our rival. Even though that, Norfolk, towards the end of my tenure at Virginia State, Norfolk had gone on to the MEAC, and I guess it kind of changed over to, some of the CIAA bands. For a while, it was North Carolina Central, and then for a big time, it was Johnson C. Smith. But Norfolk has been the one constant one throughout the years.
Wow, that's something. I attended Smith for 1 year myself, and I remember, we were ready for the Virginia State game ourselves. They didn't come to Charlotte that year, but I remember hearing stories that it was pretty savage between the two of those schools. So it's interesting, you brought up that. Now when you were at Virginia State, you work with the director with the drill. Now, was your major music?
Yes, I was a music education major.
Okay, now did you always know that you wanted to be a music educator?
Originally, I wanted to go into communication. Growing up, I was a DJ, and I was, in addition to DJing, I was into production and things of that nature. So I really wanted to go into commercial, like journalism and things like that. But when I got to Virginia State, I actually, once again, Mr. Horton convinced me that he thought I would make a good band director. So I took him up on his advice and decided to major in music education.
Wow, that's now at Virginia State. Now, did they always have music education? Did they have like music engineering, or was it strictly music education there?
For the longest time, it was pretty much always music education. Later, there became a lot of students went into music performance, and there's other things now. But for the longest time, it was always music education.
Okay, yeah, that's similar to Jackson State. Yeah, I wasn't sure. That's why I was asking. We actually have a caller here for you from the 757 area code. I think that's Virginia.
Yes.
Caller, go ahead and give us your name and state your comment today.
Hey, what's up, fellas? My name is Sean. I'm calling from Hampton. I wanted to ask Mr. Taylor, how does he feel? Before I ask this, because I know you could be modest, because, from what I get on it, I'm also a fifth quarter member myself, Rudimental Funk, that's my screen name. But just seeing how low-key you are, I've seen you in action. How do you feel when you see other tuba sections kind of mimic the style that Horsepower has brought into the sousaphone game?
That's a very good question, because it's kind of funny. Yesterday, I was actually now, being a tuba player at Virginia State, actually, you coming from the 757 is kind of funny. When I was at Virginia State as a freshman, one of the groups that kind of right before Virginia State started really getting into the intricate fanfares, actually Hampton University was just a little bit before Virginia State. And we started to a couple of the guys from Hampton went to high school with a couple of guys from Virginia State. And there were times that, like, we would kind of, like, meet up with them. And, you know, everybody just kind of got together and played. They would come down to Virginia State. We would go to Hampton. And, you know, everybody kind of knew each other. And then so when it got to the point where we were playing we would play them, it was like this, you know, we really wanted to get into this tuba battle, see who had the best tuba section. Well, right around 94 was like one of the pivotal years of Virginia State. In 1994, we just really had we had 8 sousaphones, and of the 8, 7 of the 8 were music majors. And that's like when it really turned for us, because everybody not only could play well, but they understood what they were playing. And we went from just playing your typical fanfares to, you know, trying to do some other stuff. And then, like, fast forward another 10 years to when people saw the birth of horsepower, per se. Matter of fact, the old tuba players at Virginia State, when they were saying, because we at Virginia State, we were always kind of known as T5T, tuba fi tuba. And so when horsepower came along, a lot of the old guys really resented it, and we didn't want something new to come. But these guys decided they didn't want to live off of what had happened prior to them. They wanted to make a name for themselves, and the way they wanted to do it was they just wanted to change the game in terms of what was happening with fanfares. And I guess the equivalent of it is being a band director and a high school band director and being around the North Carolina, Virginia area. In North Carolina, when I went to North Carolina in 1997, every high school in North Carolina wanted to be primarily like North Carolina A&T. And the flip in Virginia, every Virginia band wanted to be like Norfolk State, every Virginia high school band. And so watching tuba sections across the country, originally first with a lot of high school tubas wanting to play like Virginia State. And then it got to the point where, like I was saying yesterday, I was actually at Benedict versus Virginia State game in South Carolina, and Benedict played complete old Virginia State fanfare. So to see, it's actually a compliment. There's no question about that. And, like, Virginia State has changed even what they do, but it's kind of like it's a compliment, but now it's like it makes it harder for Virginia State to consistently be creative and, and create new ideas and, innovative, because everybody, as soon as they play something, a lot of groups are playing the identical same thing that they're playing right now. So it makes it really, really, really tough. But to answer your question, I mean, it really feels good because, a lot of bands across the country are known for certain things. If you know Norfolk State, everybody's always respected the $1 Million Funk Squad for being, the best or one of the best drum sections out there. People have always known Fam for the Fam sound. People have always known Southern for the screaming trumpets and things like that. And Virginia State, we kind of got our claim to fame. Everybody knew the horsepower tuba section.
I appreciate that, man. We appreciate the call. What's your name again?
Sean.
Sean. Okay. Well, Sean, I appreciate the call, man, and keep following the show on the fifth quarter. Appreciate that call again today, man. I wanted to ask you right quick because he actually had a really good question. What was your first job coming out of Virginia State?
My first job, actually, I was a long-term course substitute back in my old high school. My old course teacher was out, she on maternity leave, and I did that for a while. And I was in Virginia State in grad school working on a master's, actually in administration and supervision. And then someone from Warren County called and said they were looking for a band director, and that's kind of how it came about. And I went down, and it was actually August of 1997. I've been in Warren County ever since. Okay,
yeah. And I heard in the question that Sean asked, I heard you say that you got there in '97.
Yeah.
And it's a trip, man, because it's good to talk to you, but it's always you're older than I am, but it's it's always like when you communicate with people, like, you know, you're the same age, you know. Yeah. I was actually, my crab year was 97. 718-664-6025. You're chopping it up with Taylor Whitehead and the Marching Podcast here on Blog Talk Radio. Thanks for listening. I want to get into the High Stepping Nationals. You and I talked about this. It was something that really interests me. I started off this show talking about, like, you know, wins and losses in college bands, and the more people I've talked to, I understand why there isn't, but definitely at the high school level there is, and it's really exciting to hear about the High Stepping Nationals. Now, first, what is Asymmetrics Entertainment?
Okay, Asymmetrics Entertainment is actually a nonprofit organization that runs High Stepping Nationals. And they have been, this year would be and I want to get it correct, I want to say this will be the 11th High Stepping Nationals. This year will be in Charlotte. Generally it goes to a city 2 years in a row, and this is going to be the second year in Charlotte. But it's a company based out of Maryland, and from High Step Nationals originally started in Charlotte, North Carolina, and then it went from Charlotte to Atlanta, and then it went from Atlanta to Washington, D.C., and went from Washington, D.C. to Birmingham, Alabama, went from Birmingham, Alabama to Greensboro, North Carolina, then it went from Greensboro back to Atlanta, and from Atlanta back to Charlotte. So it's actually been in quite a few cities in its tenure.
Okay, we actually have a call from the 601 area code. I know that's Jackson. Caller, go ahead and give us your name and your comment today.
Oh, man, I'm listening today. This song, I was not trying to say a word. I'm listening.
It's all good, man. Do you have any questions or anything since we got you on the air now?
Yeah, I'm reading some little weird rumor that just popped up. Something about the Flag Girls are gone from the sounds of Dynamite. I'm looking for a source right now. Something that's popped up on one of these sites. I'm looking for a source. All this crazy hazing going on right now. What was the last one? Shaw, Clark, Atlanta, PV, Morrison, Storm,
yeah,
HBCU.
It is unfortunate. Do you have any questions for Taylor today?
Oh, no, I don't.
Okay. Well, hey, bro, we appreciate the call, though. We appreciate the call, and we appreciate you listening. We hopefully will one day have enough time to even talk about other issues and find out what Taylor feels about all the hazing that's going on. But, yeah, we just want to find out a little bit more about the High Stepping Nationals. But we appreciate the call, and, you know, shout out to you, man, especially calling from the 601 area code. I appreciate it, man.
All right.
Let's see here. Now, Dag, I do actually want to ask you how you feel about all of that, because it is going on. Shaw is going on, all this extra stuff. But we just don't have the time now. Right quick, the High Stepping Nationals, you said that it went to all those different cities. Now, are all these states a part of the High Stepping Nationals? Is it like a league, so to speak?
No. The actual they've just moved the competition around to various cities to accommodate so the bands are not traveling as much. You know, so let's say, for instance, in the beginning, there were a lot of bands traveling from the north. And so if it was, all deep down south, it was putting a strain on them financially. And with budget cuts and things like that in programs, and that's something that I could go on for days, being in a high school program. But once the budget cuts came, it made it extremely difficult for bands to travel. And so now they kind of move it around so that it accommodates, bands from each of the different regions that do participate in a high-stepping competition. Actually, any band can come, any high-stepping band from any part of the country can attend. It doesn't have anything to do with necessarily just those states.
So, is it any band just registers for the competition? Is that what happens?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, because I actually was going to ask what all the states were involved, because, from what I understood, it was like a conference, so to speak. But, yeah, me being way out here in California, there's only like 4, like, show bands possibly in the state. I know there's not that many. This is definitely something I would love for them to know about, or for them to at least compete in. I know that money and all that it comes into play, but that's really cool. Now, is there any college influence? Are there any other colleges in the area that come help out or come assist out with the program?
Well, I mean, each year, let me not say each, but just about every year, there have been groups that, college groups that do exhibition. When it was in, let's say, for instance, when it was in Greensboro, it was hosted at North Carolina A&T. So they helped with the organizational part of, running the event for the day. When it was in Atlanta, it was held at Clark, Atlanta. This past year was held at Johnson C. Smith. So because of that, those college groups that it was, the campus it was held at, they helped in the process, as well as did exhibition performances as well. But the unique thing about High Stepping Nationals is, so often we brag about who is the best at this, who is the best at that. And in the college world, I'm not sure if people would, even though everybody, would claim, they feel this group is better, that group is better, I'm not so sure that anyone really would want to compete so in a judge competition of this nature. But what the High Stepping Nationals does is that bands are judged on marching and maneuvering, musicality, the general effect, flags, majorette, dance, percussion, drum majors, and as a total group. And those scores are basically added up, and the group with the highest score, obviously, would become the winner and win a national championship. Now, you also have groups that participate. I mean, you have different classes. You have a Class A, your smaller bands, your Class AA, then your Class AAA, and your Class Quadruple A. And in addition to the field portion of the competition, there's also a indoor drumline and indoor dance girl portion of the competition, which is the day before the band competition starts. Because the band competition is a 2-day process, where on the first day, generally about 36 bands compete, and on the second day, the top 12 bands would compete for the finals.
Wow, okay, so it's a 2-day thing. It's kind of, I guess, rigorous, definitely mentally and physically, I'm sure, over all that amount of time. Who are your judges? I'm glad you told me about what's being judged. Who are usually your judges?
Your judges are generally always retired college band directors, auxiliary instructors, percussion instructors. Not necessarily always retired, but a lot of them are. And current college individuals too. But generally all of them are people who have music / backgrounds in those respective fields. Okay,
now, I mean, this is really cool. I did not know that, it's kind of like, open to, all of the high schools and all that worldwide. If there's some other band directors, principals, or whatever, hopefully listening to this podcast in all 50 states, how can they get their band involved? How can they get their school involved in this competition?
Actually, the first thing they would need to do is just log, and it's pretty easy to remember, would be to log on to the website www.highsteppingnationals.com. And it actually has all of the information listed right there where they can register right on that site. And once they register, they will be instructed, because they're also, in addition to their High Stepping Nationals, there are also regional competitions. Now, most of these are primarily East Coast competitions because, just like you said, the majority of them are happening on the East Coast. However, it's looking to expand to some other places as well very soon.
Well, I definitely hope so, because I think it's a really good thing. I mean, it's essentially, as I'm learning and as I'm talking with more and more educators like yourself and more people that have actually been in this field for some years, understanding it's not about necessarily who wins and loses, especially at the college level, but for the competition level at the high school level, I think is really, really good for all of the states to know about this, because I think that it would grow the show band, the mystique, for lack of a better word, in more places. Just like you said, it's definitely in the southeast, but I would like to see it in Jackson, Mississippi. I would like to see it in California. We're getting towards the end of the show, and for the guy that called in, shout out to you from the 601 area code. I hope you're still listening. Could you give us a quick, for him, because it looks like we got a little time to squeeze it in, how do you feel about all the hazing that has been going on, especially to this point, coming from Virginia State in the early 90s and then being a band director now of a high school? I mean, how do you feel about the hazing that's going on here?
Well, unfortunately, it's definitely, and as people are seeing, it's a lot harder to stop than it seems, or that it would be. And obviously, most people probably would assume after the death of Robert Champion that it probably would have, just drifted off and would have stopped rather easily, so to speak. Well, not easy, but it would have died quicker. However, the mindset for a lot of older band members and programs that have kept traditions of certain hazing traditions going on for decades is basically always, if I went through it, you're going to go through it kind of thing. And that's really half the problem. And, a lot of as I talk to veteran band students in different programs, a lot of them had this feeling that the new generation of students are softer students. They're not built as tough as, we once were, and things of that nature. And because of it, one of the ways that they try to make discipline and things happen is through the hazing process. And what's unfortunate about it is that obviously someone, lost a child, someone lost a brother, an uncle, things of that nature, and it took something like that to draw real national attention to it. But I think the downside of it is now a lot of these instances that you're seeing, I'm not 100% sure that everything that you're seeing is quote-unquote hazing. I'm thinking that a lot of what you're seeing is now when something happens that someone doesn't like, they feel all they have to do is just say it was hazing, and with that, they can get out of it or draw attention to it that will make whatever they're going through stop. And I just feel like that's slightly unfair to those individuals who are working hard and trying to build, respectable programs, because, a lot of people saying, this is, for the most part, alleged allegations, which means that it's not what it always seems.
Right, and that's always the big part of it, getting out, what was actually happening. And then also, too, the actual understanding that, when someone is being hazed or if they allow it to happen, they should be held accountable themselves. We have to wrap up the show really quick. Do you have any future plans or any upcoming events with Warren County High Schools? You guys have any big competitions coming up?
Well, in North Carolina, the North Carolina bands do a lot of competitions. We, in addition to just competing on the national level, we even to my knowledge right now, we're the only state that has a high-stepping state championship. And we pretty much have competitions in North Carolina week after week. So we're always doing things. There are a lot of great events that are happening. And, we just look forward to carrying on into the future.
Well, that's exciting. I definitely wish you can't even get myself out, man. We're trying to wrap up the end of the show, but I wish you much success. We really appreciate the interview today, Taylor. I'm glad I met you on the fifth quarter, and want to keep the connection going. That's all the time we have for the show today. We always want to thank God first and foremost. We want to thank Mr. Taylor Whitehead and the Warren County High School Marching Band. We wish you much success. Please check out the website at www.themarchingpodcast.com. Like us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter. Thanks to you for listening. And remember, the eye is a better pupil and more willing than the ear. Advice may be misleading, but examples are always clear. See you next time.
Thank you.